Good evening. So it seems as though something has led you to the campsite of the Orator. Well, as you can see, I've stoked the fire, which means it's time for you to pull up your chair and settle in, because tonight, I have another tale to tell. As we came down the old boreen, Rose and I, at vesper time on Sunday e'en, we heard a banshee cry. Beyond the churchyard, dim and dark, 'neath whispering elms and yew trees stark, where our star shone, a corpse-like spark, against the wintry sky. But before we begin, if you find yourself enjoying this kind of content, first-hand, true accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your planchette to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content, which is every single day. I upload shorts all 7 days of the week, and then I do long-form content both Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Second, like I stated, all of my stories are true first-hand accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. Today's story comes from us from Redditor, QuitOutside6355, and I will make sure to link their story below. But I'm always looking for new, fresh stories. So if you or somebody you know has a story and you think it would fit well on my channel, just reach out to me on any of my social media and we'll find a time to get together, collect your story, and potentially one day feature it here on The Orator. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to today's tale. It is a story that I call Banshee Shriek. So all the way back in the 8th century in Ireland, there were these women who were called keeners. And basically their job would be when someone passed, they would sing these really sad songs of mourning at their funeral and their wake. And they were really, really popular. The problem is they didn't really get paid a lot of money and oftentimes were even paid in alcohol. And because of this, keeners were for some reason seen as like sinners and their souls were damned in the afterlife. And so when these women, these keeners, died, they continued to sing these sad, lilting melodies even in death. Their spirits would roam the land and sing these sad songs as a warning for people who were about to die, imminent death. Now, they weren't seen as the cause for this death. They were more seen as harbingers. They were announcing that somebody was going to die. And over the centuries, these creatures became known as banshees. And these banshees, they roamed the lands in Ireland, crying out, screaming, singing these sad, terrifyingly haunting melodies. And if you hear it, it means you or someone close to you may soon be dying. And this has just been the belief in Ireland for a very, very, very long time. Now, obviously, in modern days, this is seen as more folklore, legend, things like that. But for Liam and Declan, these were just bedtime stories, scary bedtime stories that they would hear all the time. You know, it's modern times. Liam and Declan, they're 10 and 11 years old. And basically, they live in Ireland, and kind of how their situation works is they live in town. But they're the second to last house right before you exit that town. And basically, the town itself is like any town. It's got lots of street lights, and it's very well lit, and there are roads everywhere, and houses all over. But then you come to Liam and Declan's house, and then right next door is their neighbor, and then there's this really tall hedgerow. And if you go on the other side of that hedgerow, all of a sudden, you see nothing but fields as far as the eye can see. This is farmland right outside of Liam and Declan's neighbor's house. And this isn't just little farms. These are vast, long, massive farms of wheat and barley, literally further than you can see. And they're everywhere. And Liam, Declan, and their friends, like, their memories of their childhood are playing in these fields. They would go into their neighbor's house, and then they created like a little tunnel through their hedgerow. They'd go through that hedge, and then they'd be in the fields, and they would spend all day out in these fields because these fields were so massive. And then as soon as you got to the edge of it, there would be another hedgerow, and you could go through that into a totally new field. And the new field might grow a new crop, or it might just be laid out different. And this was such a large area that the thoroughfares, even throughout these hedgerows and all of the different fields, there were even streams and stuff running. So this is like tons of land covered in these fields. And this was like their childhood. They would play in and around the town, but then more often than not, they would be out in these fields. And, you know, they had heard the stories of the banshees growing up, and there had even been some sightings in these fields over the years of what a banshee might look like. Now, you know, the legend of the banshee, there's a bunch of different versions of what they might potentially look like. Some people say, you know, they're pretty much always older women wandering the landside. But some people say they have long red hair, while others say they have long silver hair. Some people might say that they have a long silver cloak, while others say that they have a green tunic and then a gray cloak over it. And so there are a couple different versions of the banshee and what they might potentially look like. Some are tall, some are short. A lot of them have red eyes from crying so often. And basically they roam the land and they're crying out to warn people of somebody in their family dying. And so these, like I said, they're just bedtime stories for Liam and Declan. They don't believe in this. This is just like any other ghost story that they might hear. And so they're never afraid to be out alone in these fields during the day or even at night. And it is one just such a night. It's about 9:30 at night. Liam and Declan and two of their friends are playing in their yard. So they're not out in the fields or anything like that. They're actually doing a mixture of playing, soccer or football, and they're skateboarding. And so they're just kind of hanging out. They're in the town, well lit, everything like that. And then all of a sudden, way off in the distance in the fields, they hear this really weird noise. They don't even know exactly how to explain it, but it's like a scream or a shriek or maybe even a squeal. And their first thought is that there's like an animal out there. Maybe there's like a pig or some other animal that's been injured or is running from something. I don't know, but it sounds animalistic. And it sounds like it's way off in the fields. And so these boys, they only take a couple seconds to discuss this, and they decide they're going to go figure out what this thing is. And they're really excited about it. And so they go from their yard into their neighbor's yard. They burrow through the hedgerow, that little tunnel that they made, and suddenly they're standing in the first field. Now, these first couple fields, they're all wheat and barley, and for these kids, they're about waist high. So if you look out into these fields, really all you can see is the crop itself. If there was a pig or another small animal out there, you wouldn't even be able to see them. It would have to be something as tall as maybe like a horse or something like that for you to get a good visual. And so even though they're looking at all these fields and they're hearing this squealing, screaming, weird noise, they can't see anything out there. But it's clearly coming from a specific direction, and so the boys, they just start running in that direction, and they're laughing and having fun, and they don't have flashlights or anything like that. It's quite dark. They're only lit by moonlight, but I mean, it's literally just surrounding by fields. There's nothing to trip on or get hurt or fall off of. It's literally just flat fields as far as you can see. And so they're running towards this thing, and this creature, whatever it is, it's still making this noise. It's screaming out really loud, and as they're getting closer and closer, it's getting louder and louder. And then all of a sudden, as these boys come right upon this spot where this creature should be, the sound stops. It goes from this absolutely belting screech right near them to dead silent. It doesn't fade away. It abruptly ends. And they were right next to it. And so, thinking they've maybe spooked this animal or something like that, the boys start looking around this area. And there's nothing here. They didn't see, the crops moving as though something ran away. It's just like it suddenly stopped. And then, just as suddenly as it stops, it restarts the same exact sound, but now, instead of coming from anywhere around them, it's coming all the way back by where they entered the fields in the first place, right by that small hole in the hedgerow that allowed them to enter these fields. It's right there. And they ran for quite a while, and just a second ago, it was right here, this noise. And now it's all the way back by where they started, and it doesn't really make sense, but they're thinking, maybe we did scare it, and then it circled around, and they're not really scared at this point. They're just four boys having fun, and so, laughing, they turn, and they run back towards the way they came, thinking, awesome, this is more fun. Like, we're going to chase this thing and eventually, hopefully, catch it. And so they're running. They head all the way back towards where they were, and then once again, this sound stops. And then it starts again right behind them. But now the sound has changed. It's still a scream, right? It is still this weird squealing, bleeding, screaming, keening noise. But it has gone from like kind of sort of playful and weird to downright scary. There's just something about the tone. It is so much more sinister now than it was just a few moments ago. And so now the boys, they go from happy, jovial, thinking this is fun, to panicked. Because this is like, the sound that's emanating from whatever this is, it is definitely a sound of warning. It is scary. It sounds like it might attack these boys at any moment. And then all of a sudden, the sound once again just stops. And then it starts again. But it starts from way off in the field. Like so far away that no matter what creature this is, it is simply impossible that it went from where it was at to where they are now hearing this voice. It's almost like it literally teleported. It was right next to them. And now it's all the way across this field. But then, just as suddenly, it starts flying at them. Now, they don't see anything. There's nothing moving through the fields. But this screaming sound is coming at them. Like, clearly coming at them fast. Faster than any animal should be able to move. And it comes right up to them, and as soon as it like hits them, this sound, it starts again from a totally different direction, and then it does the exact same thing. And now all of a sudden it's coming from all of these different directions right at them, and all the boys are screaming at each other. They don't know what to do. They're freaked out. They're panicked, and they start running. They just don't know what to do. They run back towards the hedgerow as fast as they can, panicked, scared, and this sound is chasing them. It's coming from all around them now. They can't even tell what direction. It's so fast, it sounds like it's surrounding them and chasing them, moving them back towards this hole in the hedges. And they run, and they finally get in, and they're pushing each other through, getting through. And then as soon as they get through to the other side, it stops. And it's dead silent again. And the boys there, some of them are crying, they're panicked, they're scared, they don't even know what to do. And Liam, you know, he's the older brother, and his little brother Declan, he's only a year younger, but he is terrified. And so eventually they go in and, you know, they tell their parents what happened and everything like that. And of course, nobody believes them. And it's just like every other story, except poor Declan, it's like he can't reconcile. He is terrified by this. In fact, over the next couple of weeks, he would lose sleep and he was constantly frightened. He did not want to go outside. It's like whatever this was, it was disturbing to all of them, but it was especially disturbing to him. And over the next couple of years, there would continue to be sightings of an old woman who matched all of the descriptions of what a banshee is supposed to look like wandering those fields. Until, unfortunately, one day a few years later, young Declan would tragically pass away. And now here we are all of these years later. Liam is now an adult, and he's looking back on this really bizarre time in his life where, you know, it's obviously riddled in tragedy. He lost his brother and one of his best friends, but he can't think about this situation without remembering a couple of years before his brother's passing, when they were out in these fields, and they were surrounded by what sounded exactly like the screaming of the banshee shriek. And so, that's going to do it for today's story. If you found yourself enjoying this or any of the stories on my channel, first-hand true accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your planchette to both the like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content, which is every single day. I do shorts all 7 days of the week, and then Monday and Friday are for long-form content, which I upload at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Second, like I said, all my stories, they're first-hand true accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. If you or anybody you know has a story, and you think that it would do well on my channel, reach out to me on any of my social media and we'll find a time to collect your story and potentially one day feature it here on The Orator. And so until next time, where you may pull up your chair, you'll see that the fire is stoked, and I will have another tale to tell.